Welcome to our deep dive into productivity joy.
Oh, a fascinating read by Simi Rayat.
It really is. It's all about, hitting those goals, but not at the expense of your well-being.
Right, and it's gaining some serious traction. I mean, big names like Shadé Zerai, she's the co-founder of Influenzo Global.
Right.
And Sophie Krantz, she's a global strategist. They're both raving about the 5 Qs formula in the book, how effective it is.
Yeah, what really struck me? Rayat's own story. Like, here she is, super successful on the outside, but she felt this lack of fulfillment.
It's more common than you think, that disconnect between, outward success and how you actually feel inside.
Exactly. So she was already a practicing psychologist, but she still developed this 5 Qs formula to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about the questions themselves, right? What are these transformative questions?
Let's dive into that.
Okay, so the first one, it's all about how you're feeling emotionally. What's your emotional state? The second one, it's all about gratitude. What are you grateful for? Where do you find inspiration?
Great.
The third question tackles challenges, like what are you facing and how can you overcome them?
Interesting.
Then the fourth one helps you zero in on 3 key tasks for the day, the ones that will really make a difference.
Okay.
And lastly, the fifth question, it's about how you want to approach your interactions with others. What kind of energy do you want to bring?
I see. So these 5 questions, they're kind of like a framework, a way to start your day intentionally.
Exactly. And what's interesting is Rayat compares answering these questions to getting like a dopamine hit.
Oh, wow.
Each decision you make, it sets off this chain reaction. It motivates you to act intentionally throughout the day.
So it's like a catalyst, especially if you're feeling stuck or you don't know where to begin.
Absolutely. It gives you the reins. You're in control. You're navigating your day with a purpose.
Now, Rayat also addresses burnout head on. And she cites this pretty alarming statistic from, I think it was a 2024 Mercer report.
Oh, right. Yeah. Something like 82% of professionals are at risk of burnout.
82%. That's huge.
It is. And it impacts everything. Emotions, mental health, physical well-being.
Leading to decreased productivity and even strained relationships. Right?
Exactly. And, it can creep up on you. Rayat talks about how she even felt overwhelmed, and she's a psychologist.
Wow.
She compares herself to, a bull in a china shop.
I get that.
It's so relatable, especially for high achievers, those who seem to have it all together but are struggling underneath.
And I think we all have that tendency to put off change, right? We wait for the perfect moment.
Oh, absolutely. Like those New Year's resolutions that fizzle out by February.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Rayat challenges that. She says, step outside that comfort zone.
It's like when you go to a restaurant and the menu is so overwhelming, you end up ordering the same thing you always get.
Right.
Right.
Because making a decision is just too much.
Yeah, and Rayat talks about this aha moment, the realization that staying put is actually more disruptive than changing.
It's like a turning point, right?
Yeah.
When those breakthroughs happen.
Exactly, and she gives the example of Sebastian. He was a leader who had this aha moment about being afraid to lose control, and it totally transformed his leadership style.
So moving on, let's talk about the difference between emotions and feelings, because it's something we hear more about, especially with all the focus on emotional intelligence.
Right. It's important to understand that distinction.
And Rayat explains it well. She says emotions are like these instinctive physical reactions.
Like a reflex.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And feelings are how we interpret those sensations.
And she even describes how different emotions like happiness, sadness, love, anger, how they actually manifest physically in our bodies.
Think about a time when you felt like pure joy. Did you notice anything physically, like your heart beating faster?
Right, or maybe a spontaneous smile.
Exactly. Rayat encourages us to pay attention to those cues and helps us understand our emotional landscape better.
It's all about recognizing that emotions and feelings, they don't define us. They're just data points, internal signals.
It's how we respond to them that matters.
Right.
So let's get into Rayat's concept of emotional regulation.
Okay.
She introduces this character, Harsha, who's this successful finance director. But her perfectionism is causing tension at work and at home.
Oh, that's relatable for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And Harsha's story shows how important it is to acknowledge and manage those emotions so they don't, derail your productivity and well-being.
And Rayat actually adapts this
Yes.
approach from, it's from The Whole Brain Child by Siegel and Bryson. They call it Name It to Tame It.
Right.
And she calls her method Acknowledge It to Regulate It.
I like that framing. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about labeling them.
Exactly. To lessen their intensity.
Yeah.
To gain control.
And she suggests some practical techniques,
Hmm?
like the MVW expansion.
Oh.
Move your body, breathe deeply, and widen your visual field.
Yeah, those are good ones for calming the nervous system, shifting out of that reactive state.
Now, Rayat shares this heartwarming story about her son. He does this simple act of kindness for a homeless man, and it really shows the power of gratitude.
Yeah, and there's science behind that. Gratitude releases dopamine and serotonin.
So it boosts your mood and reduces stress.
Exactly, by activating the hypothalamus.
Think back to a time when someone genuinely thanked you for something. How did it make you feel?
Right, it probably made you feel pretty good.
Yeah, because gratitude is like, it's magic in action.
And it strengthens social connections, too, because it engages the parts of the brain associated with social interaction. It creates this ripple effect of positivity.
But here's the thing. Our brains aren't always wired for positivity.
Oh, right. The negativity bias.
Yeah, we tend to focus on the negative even when good things are happening.
It's a leftover from our survival instincts. Back in the day, focusing on threats kept us safe.
Right, but nowadays, it can really distort our perception.
Raya outlines 5 ways our brains mislead us. All or nothing thinking, mental filtering, should statements, mind reading, and overgeneralization.
Social media is a perfect example. We see these curated highlight reels.
Right.
And it makes us feel inadequate, like we're not measuring up.
It's important to remember that social media is often a distorted reality. Riot even suggests limiting social media use to avoid falling into that trap.
Good point. So where does optimism fit into all of this?
Well, Riot sees optimism as a resilience booster. It's about viewing challenges as opportunities for growth.
Instead of roadblocks.
Right. And she refers to Martin Seligman's research, which shows that optimists cope with stress and setbacks better.
She also shares this inspiring story of a senior director who lost her job and then rebuilt her confidence.
Really showing how optimism can help us bounce back from adversity.
So let's talk about the practical side of productivity, prioritizing those impactful tasks. Rayat emphasizes aligning actions with long-term goals. You know, it's not just about checking things off a list.
Right. It's about focusing on what truly matters.
And she gives some practical advice,
Right.
like breaking down big tasks, using time-blocking techniques, and learning to say no.
Learning to say no is a big one.
It is. And she gives this example of Alex, who embraced prioritization and saw a positive shift in team productivity and morale.
Delegation and saying no, those are game changers.
Totally. Now let's explore aligning with our values and strengths. It's like the final piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Rayat leads us through this self-reflection exercise. She has this table in her book that helps you identify your top 5 values and what she calls superpowers.
It's all about understanding what motivates you and then leveraging those strengths.
Exactly. And she emphasizes living in alignment with those values.
She gives the example of Jacqueline, who's a team leader. And she has to have this tough conversation with someone, but she navigates it by drawing on her values of respect and support.
Rayat also shares her own story of how she landed this big business opportunity.
Really?
Yeah, by being authentic and connecting with the audience during a keynote presentation.
It all comes full circle. Understanding your values, recognizing your strengths, and then using the 5 Qs formula as your daily guide. That's how you unlock productivity joy.
It is. It's about accomplishing goals, but also prioritizing well-being, living intentionally, and making a meaningful impact.
Exactly.
And actually, we're going to provide a concise summary of productivity joy at the end of this deep dive.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll distill it down to 10 key takeaways without repeating any words we've used in our conversation.
A handy little guide for our listeners. I like it.
We'll continue our exploration productivity joy after a short break. Rayat makes this interesting connection between our evolutionary past and, the productivity challenges we face today. It's like our brains are still programmed for survival mode, so we prioritize those perceived threats over actually enjoying the present moment.
Like we're still running from saber-toothed tigers.
Exactly. But those tigers are long gone.
Yeah.
So we end up overestimating risks and getting caught in this cycle of negativity.
And to counter that negativity bias, Rayat suggests something called constructive reframing.
What's that?
It's basically a technique for challenging those pessimistic thoughts and replacing them with more balanced perspectives.
So it's like giving ourselves permission to be imperfect.
Exactly. Mistakes happen, it's inevitable, but there are also opportunities to learn and grow.
And she emphasizes self-compassion, especially when dealing with things we can't control.
Being kind to ourselves, recognizing our efforts regardless of the outcome.
Right. And she offers some practical advice for nurturing that self-compassion, like practicing gratitude, doing mindfulness exercises, and surrounding ourselves with supportive people.
Creating that environment that encourages growth.
And she uses this analogy of the airplane oxygen mask. Attend to your own needs before assisting others.
Ah, right. The safety announcement.
Yeah. And she applies that to our everyday lives.
It's a good reminder that we can't pour from an empty cup. We have to prioritize our own well-being.
Exactly. If we want to show up authentically for ourselves and for others. And she breaks down self-care into 6 key areas.
Oh,
Sleep, movement, nutrition, calm, connection, and learning.
let's start with sleep. What does she say about that?
Well, she's a big advocate for a consistent bedtime routine, aiming for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night.
Solid advice.
And she even introduces this relaxation technique called the 3 anchors. It involves focusing on specific points in your body, like your forehead, your chest, and your abdomen.
To quiet the mind and prepare for sleep.
Exactly. And when it comes to movement, she gives us these really practical tips, like swapping your office chair for a stability ball.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It engages your core muscles and improves your posture.
Just by sitting differently.
It's about finding creative ways to incorporate activity throughout the day.
Makes sense. What about nutrition?
Well, she emphasizes nourishing our bodies with whole foods, staying hydrated, and limiting those processed foods and sugary drinks.
Pretty standard advice, but important nonetheless.
Oh, absolutely. And she also mentions intermittent fasting. But she's careful to say that you should consult with a healthcare professional before trying any new diet.
Right, because everyone's different.
Exactly. Now, for cultivating that sense of calm, she suggests things like mindfulness, meditation, and deep breathing exercises.
Those are always good go-tos.
Yeah. And she even recommends creating a calm corner in your home or workspace.
Like a dedicated space for peace and rejuvenation.
Exactly. And then there's connection. Rayat really stresses the importance of strong social bonds for our well-being and productivity.
We're social creatures, after all.
And she tells this heartwarming story about her grandmother's philosophy of ikmut. It means one fist in Punjabi.
I like that.
It symbolizes the importance of unity and support within families and communities.
The idea that we're stronger together.
Exactly. Everyone needs that supportive network to lean on, to celebrate with, and to face challenges alongside.
And lastly, learning.
Yes. Rayat is all about lifelong learning. She encourages us to constantly seek new knowledge and expand our horizons.
Always be curious.
Right? And she talks about cultivating a growth mindset. So you see challenges as opportunities for learning and development.
Instead of obstacles.
Exactly. And she also emphasizes the importance of reflection. Taking those pauses to process experiences and extract those valuable lessons.
She mentions a story from Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, yeah.
About a man who has this life-changing experience on the New York City subway.
And it really highlights the importance of shifting our perspective, practicing empathy, and recognizing that there are learning opportunities everywhere.
Even on a crowded subway.
Exactly. And to help with that reflection, Rayat introduces the trio reflection technique. It's this simple but powerful exercise that involves asking yourself 3 questions at the end of each day. What went well? What could have been improved? And what did I discover about myself?
It's a nice way to end the day on a positive note.
And to glean those valuable insights that can help us grow.
So, are we ready to deliver on our promise?
You mean the 10-point summary?
Yeah, encapsulating all of Rayat's insights without repeating any of the words we've used in our conversation.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, hit me with the first one.
All right. First, workplace fatigue is a widespread issue that significantly impacts a large segment of the workforce, highlighting the need for companies to focus on employee well-being.
Number 2.
Moments of profound realization can act as catalysts for personal growth, guiding individuals toward more fulfilling paths.
All right, what's next?
Number 3, comprehending the interplay between our innate physical responses and how our minds interpret those reactions is essential for developing emotional intelligence.
Okay, number 4.
Effectively regulating our emotional states is paramount for attaining balance and a productive life.
And number 5.
Expressing and receiving authentic appreciation yields numerous benefits, including an improved mood and strengthened relationships.
Number 6.
Our inherent inclination to fixate on the negative can lead to distorted perceptions. However, we have the power to reframe those thought patterns.
What about number 7?
Embracing a hopeful perspective helps us navigate obstacles and setbacks with greater resilience, serving as a buffer against life's inevitable curveballs.
Okay, number 8.
Utilizing our time wisely involves prioritizing tasks that align with our overall goals, ensuring that our efforts meaningfully contribute to our desired outcomes.
Number 9.
Aligning our actions with our core values and harnessing our innate talents allows us to embark on a more impactful and fulfilling life journey.
And lastly, number 10.
Seemingly small gestures of kindness can have a ripple effect, profoundly impacting both ourselves and those around us, highlighting our capacity for positive change.
There you have it. Our 10 key takeaways from Productivity Joy. Really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. Simi Rayat gives us a practical roadmap for integrating productivity and well-being, for creating a life that's both successful and fulfilling.
Her personal journey and the advice she offers, it's relatable. It gives us the tools to navigate this crazy modern world.
And we've learned that productivity joy isn't about, just checking things off a list.
It's bigger than that.
It's about aligning our actions with our values, prioritizing self-care, and approaching challenges with optimism and that resilience.
The 5 Qs formula: emotional regulation, cultivating self-compassion. Those are some real gems we've uncovered in this deep dive.
But remember, the path to productivity joy is different for everyone.
It takes some experimentation, self-discovery, and a willingness to embrace the journey.
And as Rayat's story shows us, even those small acts of kindness, they can have a ripple effect. They can create a wave of positivity.
It's inspiring, really.
So thank you for joining us on this exploration of productivity joy.
We hope you found it valuable.
We encourage you to take these insights, experiment, find what works for you, and create your own unique blend of productivity and fulfillment.
Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and keep striving for that balance.
That sweet spot where accomplishment and joy intersect.